Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today's creepypasta comes from a user. The doll started bleeding. I was an overnight nanny for a family in the area. I'd been there about 2 months and everything was going well. The parents were a little strange but kept to themselves for the most part and paid me very well. While I was looking, the older one said, "I bet you can't find any." And then he started laughing maniacally. I asked what he wanted to do and he said, "Hide and seek, but you have to stay in your room until we say go." I thought this was just a normal game of hide and seek and agreed. I ignored him and continued to look until I found some nice thick candles and a lighter on the top shelf of the fridge. The older one had blood all over his face. I asked him what happened, and he said, "You didn't tell us to stop playing." I was confused, so he stood up and went over to the other couch. I followed him to see what he was doing, and he started moving his lips, as if he was reading something. But he wasn't looking at a book or anything. I got closer and saw that he was staring at the baseboard. The kids were silent while I lit them and put them around the room. I know it sounds crazy, but I think the doll was possessed, and it somehow used them to spread the evil. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stay tuned for more content, and as always, thanks for watching. I don't even want to think about what kind of ritual they might have been doing, but it must have been something serious. I honestly believe that I saved myself that night by listening to my gut and running away from the house. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't. Maybe I would be dead now, or maybe I would still be stuck in that house with no way out. All these years later, I still can't sleep with the lights off. And the sight of a rocking chair still makes me nervous. I told him to get off the ground right now. He just stared at me and still didn't respond. His eyes rolled back in his head and he looked like he was having a seizure. I started to freak out and yell at him to get away from it. The kids were also great. 2 boys, ages 9 and 7, who loved to watch cartoons and play video games with me, screamed and ran to the phone to call 911. The younger one started to cry, and the older one just kept staring at the floor. When I turned around, he wasn't there anymore. I still keep in touch with the friend I moved in with, though, and I asked her if anything ever came of that case. She told me that it's still a mystery. No one knows what happened to those kids or where their parents were that night. The police assume that they're all dead, but no bodies were ever found, and the case is still open. One evening after the parents went out for the night, the power went out. They couldn't find any sign of the children anywhere. She paid me in cash, which was odd because she always paid me through check. She also seemed very relieved that I was still there and thanked me profusely. She told me to take the rest of the week off, and I haven't been back since. The only thing they found was the blood on the floor. My boss's car wasn't there when they arrived, so no one knew where they could be. The police eventually gave up after a few hours, and I never saw the children again. I was watching TV with the boys when all of a sudden the power went out. The older one said, "Oh man, it must have been the storm out," and shrugged it off. The younger one started to cry because he was scared of the dark. I told him it would be fine, and I started to look around for some candles or flashlights. As I was coming down the ladder, I felt something wet on my arm, and I assumed it was a bug. I shook it off and went to wash my hands in the kitchen. That's when I saw what was stuck to my arm. It was a piece of thread. The house was very expensive looking, and I'm sure they had some candles somewhere. When we were settled down again watching TV by candlelight, the older one said, "Let's play a game," which I thought was weird since it was only 8 p.m. I turned off the lights and waited until I heard the countdown. Then I opened the door and started to look for the boys. The house was massive, and I called their names as I looked. I finally found the younger one hiding under a bed in the basement. I told him that wasn't very fun, and that he should let his brother win. He just replied, "No," and hid his face in a pillow. I left him there and headed upstairs to look for his brother. I called his name again, and I swear the voice came from the attic. It sounded like he was up there, but I couldn't see anything. I went back into the living room, and the kids were sitting on the couch watching TV, as if nothing had happened. That's when I noticed the blood. There was blood coming out of the baseboard, where the wall and the floor meet. It looked almost like it was oozing out. He slowly looked back at me and smiled. He said, "Do you see it?" Police and paramedics arrived soon after and searched the house. My boss did come home later that night, though, acting as if nothing had happened. It's been almost 2 years since that night, and I've moved away from that town. Sometimes I think about those kids and wonder what really happened. It just doesn't make sense. Why would the walls bleed? Would it be possible for walls to bleed? Let me know in the comments below.